The neural interface burned like liquid fire through Dr. Amanda Hayes' skull, but she didn't scream. 20 years of deep-sea research had taught her that sometimes the most important discoveries came with a price. As the connection stabilized, the darkness behind her eyes exploded into colors that shouldn't exist. Neural pathway integration at 60%. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Vital signs elevated but stable. How are you holding up, Amanda? She couldn't answer, not with words anyway. The interface was rewriting the language centers of her brain, teaching her to understand patterns of thought rather than patterns of sound. Through the observation window of the Nautilus Deep Sea Research Station, she could see the massive form of the Nilari bioship, its translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that now felt like poetry in motion. The first contact had happened 3 days ago. The Nilari vessel, looking more like a giant manta ray than a spaceship, had emerged from the Mariana Trench where the research station had been monitoring deep-sea thermal vents. Initial attempts at communication had failed. The Nilari didn't use sound or radio waves, but rather a complex language of bioelectrical signals similar to those used by Earth's electric eels. That's where Amanda's research came in. Her work on cephalopod neurological systems had led to the development of the prototype neural interface. When the Nilari noticed her team studying their ship's electrical patterns, they had transmitted the blueprints for a more advanced version, one that could bridge the gap between their species. Neural pathway integration at 80%, Marcus announced. Beginning final synchronization. The pain peaked, and Amanda felt her consciousness expanding. Suddenly, she wasn't just observing the Nilari ship. She could feel it. The gentle pulse of its life support systems, the steady rhythm of its propulsion organs, the complex dance of thoughts from the beings inside. Welcome, explorer of deep places, the first coherent thought came through. We have watched your kind for many cycles. You study the dark waters as we do. Amanda focused her thoughts, trying to form them into patterns the interface could translate. We're honored to meet you. I'm Dr. Amanda Hayes. We are the Nilari. Your neural architecture is compatible with ours. A rare gift among the star-swimming species. There is much we can learn from each other. Through the interface, Amanda received impressions of incredible medical technologies, ways of healing that worked with the body's natural systems rather than forcing them into compliance. She saw sustainable energy systems that mimicked the efficiency of deep-sea creatures and propulsion methods that could revolutionize human space travel. In return, she shared humanity's understanding of marine ecosystems, our studies of ocean currents, and our theories about the origins of life in the deep. The Nilari's excitement was palpable through the interface. They had been searching for precisely this kind of knowledge. Your species has the missing pieces we have sought, they transmitted. Together, we can unlock the secrets of the dark waters on many worlds. The exchange lasted hours, but to Amanda, it felt like minutes. When the interface finally powered down, she slumped in her chair, exhausted but grinning. Her nose was bleeding, and her head felt like it had been used as a percussion instrument, but she knew it had been worth it. Did we get all that recorded? She asked, her voice hoarse. Marcus handed her a tissue for her nose. Every bit. The UN Security Council is already reviewing the data. Amanda, do you realize what you've just done? This isn't just first contact. You've established a foundation for genuine cooperation. She looked out at the Nilari ship, its patterns now shifting in what she recognized as an expression of joy. They're not just aliens, Marcus. They're explorers, scientists. They're colleagues. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning. What she couldn't know then, what none of them could know, was that this peaceful exchange would eventually lead humanity to draw a line in the cosmic sand. A line that would show the galaxy just how far humans would go to protect those they called friends, even if those friends came from the stars. Commander Jack Reynolds stood at the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, staring at the holographic display that showed Europa's ice-covered surface. Something wasn't right. The joint human-Nilari research pod stationed near the subsurface ocean had missed its last 3 check-ins. "Run the quantum signature scan again," he ordered, his fingers drumming against the command console. 5 years of protecting Nilari research stations had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every nerve in his body was screaming danger. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, his sensor officer, nodded. "Scanning now, sir." "Wait." Her hands flew across the haptic interface. "I'm picking up residual energy patterns. They're not ours, and they're definitely not Nilari." Reynolds leaned forward, studying the ethereal trails that appeared in the display. They resembled snake tracks in sand, but these were made of disrupted quantum fields. Cross-reference with the database. "Already on it," Rodriguez replied. "Sir, you're going to want to see this." The patterns match surveillance reports from the Centauri sector. Kraxan Empire signatures. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop 10 degrees. Everyone knew about the Kraxan, the self-proclaimed guardians of galactic order who had subjugated 3 different species in the past decade alone. They claimed to protect lesser races from their own inadequacies. In reality, they stripped conquered worlds of resources and technology, leaving broken civilizations in their wake. "Signal the recovery team," Reynolds commanded. "Full stealth protocols. I want us invisible before we get within 1,000,000 kilometers of that research pod." The Defiant stealth systems engage, wrapping the ship in layers of quantum distortion fields, technology adapted from Nilari bioship camouflage. As they approached the pod's last known coordinates, Reynolds felt his jaw clench. The station was intact but dark, its biological components showing no signs of life. "Launch the drones," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis." The recovery team's data painted a grim picture. The pod hadn't been destroyed. It had been dissected. Precision energy weapons had carved away sections of the biological structure, exposing the hybrid technology within. The Kraxan hadn't just attacked the station. They'd studied it. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, her voice tight. "I'm detecting quantum fragmentations consistent with a high-yield photon burst. The timestamp. It matches the pod's last transmission." Reynolds closed his eyes for a moment. The Kraxan had used their weapon while the pod was still transmitting. They had wanted someone to find this message. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," he said, his voice steady despite the anger building in his chest. "And contact Dr. Hayes at the Nautilus station. She needs to know her friends are being hunted." Within hours, the Defiant's findings sparked a flurry of activity across Earth's defense network. Hidden sensors throughout the solar system were activated, and stealth platforms began mapping quantum disturbances that had previously gone unnoticed. The Kraxan hadn't just sent a message. They'd been watching, studying, preparing. In her lab aboard the Nautilus, Dr. Hayes received the news with a calm that surprised even her. "They're testing our response," she told Reynolds over the quantum-encrypted channel. "The Kraxan don't understand our relationship with the Nilari. They see our cooperation as a sign of weakness." "What do you recommend?" Reynolds asked, respecting the insight of the woman who knew the Nilari better than any other human. "We show them exactly how much we've learned from each other," Hayes replied, bringing up schematics of a new defense system, one that combined Nilari biotechnology with human military innovation. "The Kraxan think they're dealing with 2 separate species. Let's show them what humanity and the Nilari can do together." As the Defiant maintained its silent watch over Europa, Reynolds contemplated the coming storm. The Kraxan Empire had made a crucial mistake. They assumed Earth's protection of the Nilari was a political stance, a show of diplomatic strength. They didn't understand that humans would fight harder to protect their friends than they ever would to protect themselves. "Log entry," Reynolds spoke softly. "They think they're hunting the Nilari. They don't realize they've just picked a fight with humanity. That's going to cost them dearly." The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never been so silent. On the massive central display, the Kraxan ultimatum played in crystal-clear resolution. A massive warship, sleek and predatory, methodically destroying an unmanned Nilari monitoring station. The message that followed was equally precise. To the species known as the Nilari, your technological advancement has qualified you for integration into the Kraxan Empire's protection initiative. Submit within 3 standard cycles, and your civilization will be preserved under our guidance. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of defiance. Ambassador Keela, the Nilari's chief diplomat, stood motionless before the assembly. Her translucent skin rippled with patterns of deep blue, a sign of profound sorrow that Dr. Amanda Hayes had learned to recognize over their years of cooperation. Honored representatives of Earth, Keela's neural translator converted her bioelectrical signals into spoken words. We cannot ask you to stand against the Kraxan Empire. Their military strength exceeds all known spacefaring civilizations in this sector. Her patterns shifted to a lighter shade. We will accept their terms and withdraw from Earth space immediately. The chamber erupted in protests. 5 years of cooperation had created bonds that transcended mere political alliance. Nilari medical technology had cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Their bioengineering expertise had helped restore dying coral reefs and clean polluted oceans. Dr. Hayes rose from her seat in the scientific advisory section, her neural interface glowing softly against her temple. Madam Secretary General, I request permission to address the assembly. The Secretary General nodded, and Hayes made her way to the podium. Her head throbbed. She'd been using the neural interface extensively to coordinate with Nilari scientists about defense possibilities, but this was too important to delay. 5 years ago, I experienced something unique in human history, she began. Through the neural interface, I didn't just communicate with the Nilari. I understood them. They showed me not just their technology, but their hopes, their fears, their dreams. She turned to face Keela directly. They showed me what family means to them. The patterns on Keela's skin swirled in surprise as Hayes continued, switching to neural communication that the entire assembly could hear through their translators. Family is not about shared biology. It is about shared purpose, shared dreams, shared future. The Kraxan Empire thinks they're offering protection. Hayes' voice grew stronger. But we've seen what their protection means. They don't protect. They dominate. They don't preserve. They consume. And now they threaten our family. Commander Reynolds, attending via quantum link from the U.S. Defiant, spoke next. The Kraxans' tactics rely on fear and isolation. They expect the Nilari to stand alone. But Earth space is no longer just Earth space. Every Nilari research station, every joint colony, every shared project. They're all part of our home now. The Secretary General stood, her expression resolute. Ambassador Keela, I have been authorized by the Security Council to deliver Earth's official response to this situation. She paused, making eye contact with every major power's representative. The Nilari people are hereby granted protected status under the Earth Defense Accord. All Nilari citizens, stations, and vessels are now under direct United Earth protection. Keela's skin flashed with patterns of disbelief. You would risk everything. For us. Dr. Hayes stepped closer to her friend. That's what family does. The Secretary General's next words were transmitted across every human and Nilari communication channel. To the Kraxan Empire. The Nilari are under our protection. Any action against them will be considered an act of war against Earth. We do not make this statement lightly, nor do we make it from a position of weakness. You have 3 standard cycles to withdraw all forces from Nilari space. As the assembly erupted in unified support, Hayes felt Keela's neural patterns shift from sorrow to something else. Hope, mixed with wonder at humanity's response. The Kraxan Empire had made a fundamental error in their calculations. They had assumed that Earth, a younger spacefaring civilization, would abandon its allies in the face of superior force. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Thompson stood in the dimly lit command center of Project Sanctuary, Earth's most classified military installation buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed hundreds of stealth platforms being moved into position throughout Nilari space, each one disguised using reverse-engineered biotech from their ally ships. "Status report on Phase 1 deployment," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of 20 years of special operations experience. Captain Jennifer Miller, his operations officer, brought up a detailed tactical display. Stealth platforms Alpha through Echo are in position around primary Nilari research hubs. Biosignature masking is holding at 98% efficiency. The Kraxen's standard scanning protocols won't detect them. Thompson nodded, studying the complex web of defenses they were weaving. The platforms weren't just defensive installations. They were a testament to what humanity and the Nilari could achieve together. Each one contained a hybrid core, human quantum weapons systems wrapped in Nilari bioorganic camouflage. "What's the status on the Neptune defense line?" he asked, referencing their fallback position if the outer defenses failed. "Commander Reynolds has the Defiant battle group in position," Miller replied. "They're running silent, using the gas giant's magnetic field for additional cover. The Kraxen won't know they're there until it's too late." The neural interface at Thompson's temple pulsed softly as he received a direct communication from Dr. Hayes at the Nautilus station. The technology had become standard issue for key military personnel, allowing instant coordination with their Nilari allies. "The biogenic weapons are ready," Hayes transmitted. "The Nilari engineers have integrated them with your defense platforms." Thompson smiled grimly. The biogenic weapons were another hybrid creation. Targeted electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt both electronic and organic systems. Against the Kraxen's cybernetic warships, they would be devastating. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered. "I want every platform armed and ready within 24 hours. The Kraxen's deadline is approaching, and I don't trust them to honor it." As his team worked, Thompson reviewed the intelligence reports from their deep space monitoring stations. The Kraxen were mobilizing a massive fleet, likely intending to overwhelm any resistance with sheer numbers. It was a solid strategy, except for one critical flaw. They still thought they were only fighting the Nilari. "Sir," Miller called out suddenly, "we're detecting quantum disturbances in Sector 7. Kraxen scout ships trying to map our defense capabilities." Thompson watched the tactical display update in real time. "Let them look. All they'll see is empty space and a few outdated defense satellites. Keep our real teeth hidden." The next few hours were a carefully choreographed dance of preparation and deception. While the Kraxen scouts observed what appeared to be minimal defensive preparations, Earth's true response took shape in the shadows between stars. A junior officer approached with a neural tablet. "Sir, final deployment orders from Earth Command. They're designating this Operation Guardian Angel." Thompson took the tablet, remembering a conversation he'd had with Ambassador Kila weeks earlier. She had asked him why humans were willing to risk so much for the Nilari. His answer had been simple: "Because that's who we are. We protect our own." "Send word to all commands," he announced. "Operation Guardian Angel is now active. All units maintain stealth protocols until engage. Remember, people, we're not just defending territory. We're defending family." The command center hummed with purposeful activity as the final pieces fell into place. Earth's first line of defense was invisible, patient, and lethal. The Kraxen Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about humanity. We fight smartest when protecting others. Thompson looked at the tactical display one last time before encrypting it. Somewhere out there, Kraxen warships were preparing for what they thought would be a simple conquest. Instead, they were sailing into humanity's version of a perfect storm. "Now we wait," he murmured. "And may whatever gods the Kraxen believe in have mercy on them, because we won't." Captain Diana Foster watched the Kraxen battle fleet emerge from quantum space through the U.S. Vigilance Advanced Sensor Suite. Their formation was perfect, a textbook example of military precision. 12 heavy cruisers arranged in a pyramid pattern, escorting what appeared to be their flagship. They had come prepared for a show of force against an undefended research station. "All hands, maintain emissions silence," she sub-vocalized through her neural interface. "Let them get nice and comfortable." The Vigilant lay dormant among the stellar debris field, its Nilari-inspired bioorganic hull rendering it virtually invisible. 3 other Earth vessels, the Interceptor, the Valiant, and the Striker, waited in similar hiding spots, their crews watching through quantum-linked displays as the Kraxan fleet approached their target. "Ma'am," Lieutenant James Rodriguez whispered from his tactical station. "They're launching warning shots at the research hub." Standard Kraxan intimidation pattern. Foster's fingers tightened on her command chair. The Kraxan were following their usual playbook. Demonstrate overwhelming force, demand submission, then begin their integration process. They had used the same tactics against 3 other species, but not this time. "Weapons status?" she asked quietly. Biogenic pulse cannons charged and locked. Quantum torpedoes armed. Point defense grid online. Foster watched the Kraxan flagship move into position for their main show of force. The moment they committed to their attack run, they would be perfectly positioned for her trap. "Neural sync with all ships," she ordered. "Battle plan hammerfall." Through her neural interface, Foster felt the other ship captains acknowledge. The technology allowed for instant, silent coordination, another gift from their Nilari allies that the Kraxan had grossly underestimated. The Kraxan flagship's weapon ports began to glow. They were about to fire their demonstration shot at the research hub. Now, the word was barely a whisper, but it unleashed hell. The Vigilant's bioorganic camouflage dropped as its weapons platforms emerged from their concealed positions. Before the Kraxan could register the threat, the first biogenic pulse struck their lead cruiser. The hybrid weapon, combining Earth's quantum technology with Nilari biological engineering, tore through their shields like they were tissue paper. Multiple direct hits, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "Their primary systems are shutting down. They've lost 3 ships already." The Kraxan fleet scrambled to respond, but they were caught in a perfect crossfire. The Interceptor and Valiant struck from above, their quantum torpedoes targeting the enemy's engines. The Striker swept in from below, its point defense grid shredding any fighters that managed to launch. "Their flagship is attempting to coordinate a defense," Foster's XO reported. "They're trying to establish a battle line." Foster allowed herself a grim smile. "Not today. Execute maneuver Shadowfall." The 4 Earth ships activated their secondary weapons, another surprise courtesy of Dr. Hayes and her Nilari scientists. Concentrated electromagnetic pulses, calibrated to the exact frequency of Kraxan neural networks, began disrupting their command and control systems. "Ma'am, they're transmitting a general distress call," Rodriguez announced. "Universal Translator is processing. They're claiming we're using illegal weapons." "Send them our response," Foster ordered. "Let them know exactly what they're dealing with." The message was broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Diana Foster of the United Earth Defense Force. You were warned. The Nilari are under our protection. Withdraw now, or be destroyed." The battle, later known as the 6-Minute Massacre, ended exactly as its name suggested. The mighty Kraxan fleet, pride of their empire's expansion force, retreated in disarray, leaving behind 4 destroyed cruisers and a shattered flagship. As Foster watched them flee, she received a neural transmission from the research hub. Ambassador Keela's patterns showed a mix of awe and gratitude. "You have shown them something they have never seen before," the Nilari diplomat transmitted. Foster's response was simple. "We showed them what happens when you threaten our family." In the debris field that was once a Kraxan battle fleet, a new message was being written in the language of twisted metal and shattered ships. Humanity had drawn its line in the stars, and they would defend it with everything they had. High Admiral Vexkar of the Kraxan Empire stood motionless before the tactical display, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the battle footage for the 100th time. Around him, The Imperial War Chamber's crystalline walls reflected the holographic replay of their fleet's humiliating defeat. "Play it again," he ordered, his metallic voice echoing in the chamber. "Focus on the human vessel's emergence patterns." The footage reset, showing the perfect formation of his battle fleet approaching the research station. Then, as if spawned from the void itself, the Earth vessels appeared. Their attack pattern was flawless, as if they had practiced this exact scenario countless times. "Impossible," muttered Sub-Commander Zexthal, his mechanical fingers tapping against the tactical console. "According to our intelligence, humans barely mastered quantum drive technology 5 years ago. These maneuvers suggest decades of deep space combat experience." Vexkar's organic eye narrowed. "Show me the weapons analysis." The display shifted, breaking down the hybrid technology that had torn through their best shields. Bioorganic components merged seamlessly with quantum weaponry, creating something their defensive systems had never encountered. It was elegant, efficient, and devastatingly effective. "My lord," a junior analyst approached, holding a neural tablet. "We've completed the strategic assessment. The humans, they knew our attack patterns. Every countermeasure, every evasive maneuver we attempted, they anticipated them all." "Explain," Vexkar demanded. The analyst's cybernetic implants pulsed nervously. Dr. Hayes and her team at their Nautilus station. They didn't just learn to communicate with the Nilari. They studied our engine signatures, decoded our tactical algorithms. The humans turned our greatest strength against us. Vexkar smashed his mechanical fist into the console, leaving a dent in the reinforced metal. The Kraxan Empire had conquered 3 species through superior technology and unwavering military doctrine. Their tactics were perfect, refined through centuries of warfare. And somehow, these humans had turned that perfection into a weakness. "Show me their defense grid," he ordered. The display changed to a strategic map of Nilari space. What had initially appeared to be empty sectors now revealed themselves as carefully laid traps. Every apparent gap in their defense was covered by hidden platforms. Every obvious attack vector led straight into a kill zone. They were prepared, Sub-Commander Zexthal observed. Not just tactically, but psychologically. They knew we would see the Nilari as weak, knew we would underestimate Earth's resolve. A new transmission interrupted their analysis. Quantum encrypted data from their deep cover operatives near Earth. Vexkar's cybernetic eye flared as he processed the information. "They're mass-producing the hybrid weapons," he announced. "Every Earth shipyard is working at maximum capacity. They've even converted their orbital mining platforms into defense stations." The war chamber fell silent. The Kraxan Empire had never encountered a species that responded to their initial show of force with such immediate and overwhelming military preparation. "Perhaps," Zexthal suggested carefully, "we should consider diplomatic." "No," Vexkar cut him off. "The Empire does not negotiate. We are the guardians of galactic order. If we show weakness now, other protected species might think they can resist our guidance." He turned to face the assembled commanders, his cybernetic components humming with barely contained rage. "Prepare the primary battle fleet. We will show these humans the full might of the Kraxan Empire." As his subordinates hurried to comply, Vexkar returned to studying the battle footage. Something about the humans' response bothered him at a fundamental level. Their defense of the Nilari violated every principle of strategic logic. They had nothing practical to gain, no resources to protect, no territories to secure. They fought solely to protect another species, and somehow that made them more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever faced. "You don't understand us at all, do you?" Dr. Hayes' recorded message played again on the screen. "We're not fighting for profit or power. We're fighting for family. And that makes all the difference." Vexkar's organic eye twitched. Soon, he would teach these humans the price of defying the Empire. But deep in his partially mechanized brain, a new emotion stirred. Doubt. The Proxima research station shuddered under the impact of another Kraxan barrage. Inside the emergency command center, Dr. Amanda Hayes worked frantically at her neural interface console, coordinating the evacuation of both human and Nilari personnel. Medical Bay 3 is hit. A voice crackled over the emergency channel. We need immediate assistance. Through her neural link, Hayes could feel the fear and determination of her Nilari colleagues as they helped move injured humans to safety. The station's bioorganic walls pulsed with warning patterns, their bioluminescence flickering under the strain of maintaining structural integrity. U.S. Defiant responding. Commander Reynolds' voice cut through the chaos. Hold position. We're coming in hot. The massive viewing window showed the Defiant emerging from its stealth field, its hybrid weapons blazing against the Kraxan assault fleet. But this wasn't like the first battle. This time, the Kraxan had come prepared, with shields modified to resist the biogenic pulses that had proved so devastating before. Project Lighthouse is ready, Lieutenant Colonel Thompson transmitted from Earth Command. Awaiting your signal, Dr. Hayes. She took a deep breath, her hand steady despite the station's violent shaking. Do it. Light them up. Across Nilari space, hundreds of hidden defense platforms suddenly activated. The Kraxan fleet found themselves surrounded by weapons they hadn't known existed, each one powered by a combination of human determination and Nilari ingenuity. Multiple Kraxan vessels hit, Reynolds reported, but their new shielding is holding better than expected. They're pressing the attack. Hayes watched in horror as a Kraxan heavy cruiser deliberately rammed one of the defense platforms, sacrificing itself to create a gap in the defensive line. They were willing to die to prove their superiority. Ambassador Keela, Hayes called out, we need to evacuate you now. The Nilari diplomat's skin patterns showed fierce determination. I will not leave our family. Another explosion rocked the station. Hayes stumbled but kept working, her neural interface connecting her to every system, every survivor, every desperate attempt to hold back the Kraxan advance. All stations, this is Commander Reynolds. The transmission came through clearly despite the chaos. Execute emergency protocol Stormbreaker. I repeat, Stormbreaker is now active. Hayes felt her heart skip. Stormbreaker was their last resort. A concentrated electromagnetic pulse designed to overload both electronic and organic systems. It would destroy the station, but the resulting quantum cascade would take out a significant portion of the Kraxan fleet. Evacuation pods launching now, she announced, her voice steady despite the implications. All personnel, proceed to designated escape vectors immediately. Through the neural network, she coordinated with the Nilari bioships, ensuring each pod had a designated pickup point. Human and Nilari crew worked in perfect synchronization, their years of cooperation showing in every seamless movement. As the last pod prepared to launch, Hayes made her way to the primary control node. Someone had to stay behind to ensure the Stormbreaker protocol achieved maximum effect. The Kraxan needed to learn that humanity's protection wasn't a political stance. It was an absolute. Dr. Hayes, Reynolds' voice carried a note of understanding. The Defiant can hold position for 3 more minutes. After that. Understood, she replied, then switched to neural communication for her final message to Keela. Tell Earth Command that the Kraxan need to learn. This is what family does. But before she could initiate the sequence, she felt an unusual sensation through her neural interface. The station's bioorganic systems were changing, responding to some external input. Ambassador Keela's patterns appeared on her console. Your people have taught us something important. The message came through. About fighting for family. About sacrifice. But today, you must live to fight another day. The station's biological components suddenly pulsed with incredible energy. The Nilari had modified the structure itself, turning the entire research station into one massive biogenic weapon. Hayes felt herself being pulled into an emergency pod as Keela's final message came through. Now we show the Kraxan what both our species can do together. The pod launched just as the station released its full power, creating a devastating pulse that combined Nilari biological energy with human quantum weaponry. The result was beyond anything their engineers had thought possible. As her pod sped away from the battle, Hayes watched the Kraxan fleet scatter before the combined might of humanity's determination and Nilari innovation. They had crossed the point of no return, and there was no going back. High Admiral Vexkar stood before the Supreme Council of the Kraxan Empire, his cybernetic components dulled and battle-damaged. The crystalline chamber, usually glowing with the confident light of imperial power, seemed dimmer today. "Explain," the Supreme Executor demanded, "how a lesser species and their weak allies have brought the mighty Kraxan Empire to this moment." Through his damaged optical implant, Vexkar watched the holographic display showing the devastating losses their fleet had suffered. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had systematically dismantled every advantage the Kraxan had relied upon for centuries. "We fundamentally misunderstood them," Vexkar admitted, his organic eye fixed on the floor. "We analyzed their technology, their military doctrine, their strategic capabilities, but we failed to understand their nature." The chamber doors opened, admitting an unexpected guest. Dr. Amanda Hayes walked in, accompanied by Ambassador Keela and Commander Reynolds. The Supreme Council bristled at their presence, but the terms of the armistice had been clear. This meeting would include representatives of both species. Hayes stepped forward, her neural interface glowing softly. "You thought you were fighting a war over territory, over technology, over dominance. You never understood what you were really facing." She gestured, and the holographic display changed, showing images of human and Nilari scientists working together, their children playing in shared habitats, their communities building a future that transcended species boundaries. "We didn't fight you because we had to," Reynolds added, his uniform bearing the scars of recent battles. "We fought you because you threatened our family. Not our biological family, our chosen family." The Supreme Executor's cybernetic eye whirred as it processed this concept. Illogical. Protection should be based on strategic value, on resource optimization, on love, Hayes interrupted, on loyalty, on the simple truth that when humans find people worth protecting, we will move stars to keep them safe. Ambassador Keela's skin patterns shifted in a complex dance of emotions as she transmitted. "We offered humanity knowledge, but they gave us something far more precious. They gave us belonging." The terms of peace were surprisingly simple. The Kraxan Empire would withdraw from all protected territories. Every species they had subjugated would be given the choice of independence. And most importantly, they would acknowledge a new reality. Earth and its allies were now a power to be respected. As the Council deliberated, Hayes received a neural transmission from the Nautilus station. The hybrid defense network, born from human innovation and Nilari biotechnology, was being adapted for peaceful purposes. Their combined knowledge was already revolutionizing medicine, environmental restoration, and deep space exploration. "There is one thing you should understand," Hayes addressed the Council one final time. "This was never about proving our superiority. It was about protecting those we care about. If you had come to us as equals, seeking cooperation rather than submission, today might have been very different." The Supreme Executor rose, its mechanical components gleaming. "The Kraxan Empire has existed for millennia because we adapt. We learn. Today, we have learned something unexpected about strength. Perhaps there are forms of power we had not considered." As they left the chamber, Reynolds turned to Hayes. "Think they really understood the lesson?" She smiled, watching Keela interact with a group of young Kraxan scientists, their cybernetic implants glowing with curiosity as they studied her bioluminescent patterns. "They will, because we're not going to just tell them. We're going to show them." In the years that followed, the galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. The alliance between Earth and the Nilari became a model for interspecies cooperation. Other civilizations, including reformed elements of the Kraxan Empire, sought to understand how a primitive species had created something so powerful. The answer was simple, though it took some species longer to understand. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology. It was in its capacity to turn strangers into family, and its unwavering determination to protect that family, regardless of the cost. As Dr. Hayes would later write in her memoirs, we drew a line in the stars, not out of hatred or fear, but out of love. And in doing so, we didn't just protect our allies, we changed the galaxy's understanding of what true strength looks like.